Hey YouTubers, well I got another video review for you. So this one's from a company called LICITTI. This here is their new gen battery box, and as I like to put it, the BYOB. I mean, bring your own battery. The reason I say that is because basically this is just a battery box with a 2000 watt power inverter with all the plugs and the screen and everything here on the front that you would need. But then you can add your own battery that you have, laying around, whether it's a sealed lead acid or a gel or a lithium iron phosphate. You can put it here inside this box as long as it'll fit on the inside. And so I'll tell you more about that here in just a second. As it sits right here, this costs right around $500. But, LICITTI offers a set of cells that goes in here where you can build like your own battery to put in here, and it's a 280 amp hour, and they offer it with the BMS and the cells and all that. It comes out to about another $500 and something. So when you put it all together, roughly you're going to spend about $1,000 on this with a 280 amp hour battery capacity. And then like I said, you've got a 2000 watt power inverter that's pure sine wave. And then you've got your battery disconnect switch right here. And you've got your AC outlet that's 120 volt, and there's only one. That's one downfall that I've seen, is there's just one. And then over here you've got 12 volt plug, like a little cigarette lighter plug, and that's rated at 10 amps. And then over here you've got some more plugs. You've got a USB-C PD power delivery port, and then down below you have a quick charge 3.0 USB port, and you can see they both got the waterproof covers over them. And then you've got a nice LCD display right in here, and then you've also got these two Anderson ports right in here. All right, so here on the bottom where this yellow connector is, and what this is used for is for the solar. Inside there is a 20 amp MPPT charge controller. Basically what you want to do is just plug this up into this Anderson connector there, and you just push it in until it locks into place. And then these two cables here are MC4 connectors, and then you'll hook these to a solar panel or multiple solar panels. Like I said, this thing is rated at 20 amps. And just from testing and watching some of the other videos on this product, most people have been able to get up to about 275 watts of solar power through here. Now a lot of people use like up to 400 watts of solar panel, and you overpower it a little bit, and most of the time you'll see a maximum of about 250 to 275 watts. I would love to see it be maybe a 30 or 40 amp charge controller, so you could add even more power to it. But this is an improvement over the other box that LICITTI offers. That's a 1000 watt, and it only has a 10 amp charge controller. So LICITTI did upgrade this and made it a 20 amp. But I'd love to see it be a 30 or 40 or maybe even more. That way you can charge the battery a little bit faster. And then right here above the solar input, this here is another Anderson connector, and it's rated at 50 amps. And it is an input and an output. Now if you're wondering what can you do with that, well, LICITTI gives you a set of cables here and another Anderson connector. And so you can just plug it in. Probably have it upside down. Yep. These only plug in one way, I might add, so they are dummy proof. You can't plug them in the wrong way, so that's good. And then they give you these alligator clamps here. And what you could do with this, obviously you're not going to be able to pick this thing up and set it on your fender and hook this to your battery, because it's obviously too big. But let's say you're out camping or something, you've got a dead battery, you could definitely take and hook this up, and you could actually use a set of jumper cables to clamp onto these alligator clamps here, and then hook the jumper cables to your battery, and that way you don't have to pick it up. You can just set this on the ground, and it's not going to jump start it, so you're going to have to leave it on there connected a few minutes and let it charge the battery. And it can get you out of a bind if you're stranded with a dead battery, if you left your lights on or something like that. So if you're wondering how would you charge the battery on the inside of this battery box, well, it's very simple. You're going to go back to this Anderson connector there, and I said it's an input and an output. So if you've got an external battery charger like I have here, a lot of times you'll have these where you can connect these to the battery terminals, but then they also have it where you can pull them apart and you can just directly connect this to that Anderson port right there, and it plugs in just like that. Now you just turn your battery charger on, and it charges that battery. So I love the Anderson connectors there. They make it so easy to plug in and unplug, and really adapt the charger to this battery box. And LICITTI has some chargers that'll work with this. I know Redodo and some of the other battery manufacturers all have chargers that use these Anderson connectors, and seems to work really good. Now, as I said in the beginning, that this has a battery disconnect switch, but it also has another feature where, right here it's in the on position, but then you turn it counterclockwise to the off position. But then, if you've got little kids or just curious kids hanging around and messing with stuff and you don't want them to be, you can turn it a little bit further counterclockwise and then pull it off, and it just removes the disconnect, so they can't get in there and turn the unit on. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then also you'll have to be able to turn on the push button here, and that's just a push button for the AC inverter. This is not gonna turn off the unit completely. That's what that battery disconnect is for. This will turn all the power off going from the battery to the inverter. All right, so you can see right up underneath here there is some vents, and there's some fans mounted behind the vents there, and that just keeps that inverter nice and cool, because the inverter is mounted on the upper half of this box. And so LICITTI has really put a lot of thought and time into designing this box. And then right in here, you'll notice it's got this plastic ring that goes all the way around the end right here, and it's got a nice big handle, and there's one on this end as well. And the reason you need that is because once you load this thing down with some batteries, this thing's going to be pretty heavy. In fact, just the bare case is pretty heavy built as well. 32.7 pounds. You guys seen it right there. So now I'm going to get you some measurements, and when I measure, I'm going to measure to the very ends of the outside edges, and that's going to be the handles on each side. And so it's going to measure out to right at 22.25 long, 11 inches wide, and 14 1/8 of an inch tall. And I gotta say, LICITTI does give you an awesome user manual. I normally don't care about stuff like that, but I mean, they really went above and beyond. I mean, this thing's got color pages, it's glossy print, it's big enough where you can read it. It's actually written in English and where you can understand it, but a lot of you guys don't like using the user manual. Most guys don't, so they put like a specification tag here on the top to pretty much just answer some of your common questions, just like what is the battery types that can be used. It says lithium iron phosphate, and AGM and gel and lead acid. Everything's listed on here, so it's really neat that they've stuck that up there just on top of the case of the battery box. So LICITTI provides you with this little Allen key, and what you can use this for is to pretty much take the whole unit apart. All these panels come on and off with just an Allen key, and the way that you put load the battery into the back of the unit is just taking these 4 screws out, and there's one on each corner, and it just takes a second. Fit that Allen key in there and loosen them up. I went ahead and cheated. I went ahead and loosened the bottom 2 up already, but yeah, it's very easy to get into this thing and take it apart. That's one thing that I really like about it. Now keep in mind, whenever you're putting this back together and tightening it up, this is steel screws going into aluminum, so make sure you don't go crazy and tighten it way up, or you'll strip the threads out in the aluminum housing. And if you was to, I'm sure that LICITTI could probably sell you some of the extruded aluminum corners that has the threads built into it, so it's not the end of the world. But the way that this comes off, you've got your end piece here. We're gonna lay that down, and then you've got this aluminum piece here that fits behind it. And as you can see, you've got a couple vents for the airflow for the fans that's on the other side. This thing is very, very well made. Now, as far as the aluminum, it appears to be about 1/8 of an inch thick. I mean, it's pretty heavy. You've seen this thing weigh 30 something pounds, so it's not a feather. But, you know, everything about this is, you know, just very, very well made. And you can see the bracing here in the nylon fiber plastic. I mean, you can see this thing is just very, very beefy. All right, guys, so as you can see, this is what it looks like once you remove that rear panel. And the first thing that I seen was right here. You've got this shunt, and what that does is just allows you to monitor the battery, and that's what sends the signal to the LCD display on the front of the unit. And, you know, you only see these in, you know, your higher end units, and, you know, some of the portable power stations that I've built, I've always used a shunt. You hear people talking about a Victron shunt. Well, this is the LICITTI version, and they actually sell these on their website, and they're pretty expensive. So I was surprised to see this inside of the build here. So that's a nice addition. And then you can see right in there, there's an aluminum heat sink, and all the wiring and everything looks nice and tidy. And then right here, you've got these wires, and they've got like a wrap on them to keep them from getting cut by the metal. Let's just say, you know, let's say you're going down a road and you got this thing in the back of your vehicle and it's vibrating. You don't want that edge right there to actually cut into the PVC jacket there on the wire. And so, you know, they put that on there to protect the wire. I thought that was nice. And then right here, you can see that this is a 2-gauge cable rated to 200 degrees Celsius. And then you've got some nice, I believe these are tinned lugs. And then they've got the heat shrink tubing on the ends there. So, you know, it protects the lug from coming off, and, you know, making everything look nice and neat. And you can see where the adhesive has come out the heat shrink tubing. So they put them on there and heated them up correctly and all that. So all that looks good. Look right in there. And that is where your 120 volt AC outlet. It says 110 in the specification sheet there on the very top, but it's actually 120 once we tested it. And I don't know how well you guys can see that. There's that red mark right there. And then right there on top, that is your battery disconnect switch. And then right in here, this is an inline fuse for the USB ports right in there. So that's really neat that they went ahead and fused it in there. So, you know, if you can always replace that fuse if you was to overload it. And then you've got your Anderson connectors right there on the bottom. And then this little circuitry board here at the top is for your LCD display. Now, right here on the inside, you can see that is your MPPT charge controller. And I went ahead and stuck my camera in there and was able to get a picture of it. And it says that it's a WIN-MPPT series. For the photovoltaic, it says that it's rated at 55 volts max, and that for the battery, it says it can work with either 12 or 24 volt, and it's at 20 amps. And so obviously we're not going to use this with a 24 volt. It looks like to be a pretty decent quality MPPT charge controller. Like I said, I wish you know, that they could have mounted maybe a 30 or 40. You know, it looks like there's enough room right in there. So, you know, who knows, maybe they can, you know, make that upgradable at a later date, make it a 30 or 40 amp, or who knows. It's bolted in there, and you can see right there, there's a bolt, and there's a bolt there. It's like a little stud sticking out of the side of the case with a nut on it. So like, you know, some of the other reviewers had said, you could probably take those nuts off and mount another charge controller on there if you wanted to. And, you know, let's say you wanted an extra USB-C port there on the front of the box. You know, if you're handy with tools and stuff, you could probably take you a hole saw and drill another hole out on the front of the case and add you another USB port or USB-C port, whatever you wanted. You know, this is pretty much like a do-it-yourself type box, you know, the way that it's set up, but it's already, you know, designed out for you. You know, it'd just be neat that you could add on to it, you know, if there was something that you would like to add on, you know, to it separately or customize it. I'm sure you could do that. Now, would it probably void your warranty? Most definitely, I would say. But anyways, very impressed with the inside of the unit. Everything looks really nice and neat. All the cables look nice and routed nicely. You can tell whoever put this together took pride in their work. It's just not some sloppy job. Now to remove this little tray right in here, and if you notice all this stuff here in the middle, I'll show you what that is here in a minute, but to remove this tray, you just take and use that same little hex key and you remove those little screws there in the bottom. And once you remove those screws, this little tray just picks up and slides out, and that is your battery tray. So if you want to add your own little battery to this, you can. So it just slides out just like that. And then what this is right here is just some Velcro where you can put whatever battery you can fit in here and then Velcro it down. So that is pretty neat. And like I said, also, LICITTI makes a set of cells that you can put in here, and a separate BMS, and you can build like your own little battery to fit up in there. Or you can use, just an off-the-shelf battery that'll sit here in this area. And so, you can look on their website for which ones will fit. They'll put different group size batteries will fit in this area. So the battery that I'm going to be using in the LICITTI box today is the XZNY. This is 100 amp hour. And so I'm going to lift it up, stick it here in the tray, and you can see that there's plenty enough room. And you can slide it down. You've got a good 1.5 inches right in there, and then you're just going to take and strap it in place. Only takes a second to strap them down, and then you just cross this battery here and hook it in on the other side, and then it's all Velcro. So I'm going to center the battery up, and then once you lock that Velcro down, this thing's all strapped down in there. I think this will be fine. And then as far as for your battery connections, I went ahead and put the disconnect switch in the off position. So before I go ahead and connect it, and first I'm gonna go ahead and start with the negative, and I'm gonna go ahead and get her hooked up, and I'm gonna test it and see just how much extra wire that I have to hook the unit up, and see if it slides in there very easy, or if I have to really struggle with it. Now, after you get the battery strapped in, what you want to do next is go ahead and slide on your little protective boots. And what this does is just keeps the battery terminals from touching that metal plate up underneath there, because you definitely don't want that, because that would definitely make a nice little fire. So what you want to do is just push these little boots over the wire just like that, and then you go ahead and get them connected. Now keep in mind, I didn't have to use a resistor before I touched the cables to the battery, just simply because I disconnected the battery with the disconnect switch on the front of the unit. So when you do that, there's no way to create a spark. So you just tighten it up. Then after you're done tightening up both of them, then you just slide your little rubber boots over the terminal there, and as you can see, that just protects the top of that terminal from making contact with that plate, and looks nice and tidy too. So once you get your cables connected and all that, now it's time to slide this tray inside up underneath the bottom of the inverter there. And I gotta say, you might need a couple extra hands to help you, because it is close quarters in there, and you don't want to cut these wires. They do have some protective cloth over top of it to keep them from getting ripped, and that way you don't have a short or anything. But it is a heavy kind of battery to try to fit it into a heavy kind of box and try to move these wires and all this stuff out of the way. So I don't know if we'll get all this on video, but I'm going to try to get it in there by myself, and I might have to get some help from my camera person, aka girlfriend. But anyways, try to get this thing in there. And you might have to play around with the wire fitment to get it in and out of the box, but this is the best way that I've seen to get it in there. There's a little bit of room on each side, so it's not like, there you go, fit right in there. I didn't have to get no help. So you can see the wires just fit along the side. You know, you just take and put your screws back in and you should be good to go. Just be careful not to pull real hard on these batteries, because you know you got your shunt right there and the wires connected to it. You don't want to break that off or anything. But yeah, it seemed to fit in there. Now it might be more of a challenge if you've got a wider battery in there. You might have to play with it for a few minutes and take your time and make sure those wires fit in there. All right, so we went ahead and got the battery put in the back, and since it was a mini battery, you know, there was a lot of extra room in there. So it said in the manual that you could take some foam or you know, something to fill that void and stick in there, as long as it wasn't flammable, and you know, that way the battery's not moving around or any of that. But then next, we're going to go ahead and start this thing up for the first time. And what you want to do is take, and you can see the disconnects in the off position. We're going to turn it clockwise to the on position, and you can see right there that the display popped up, and it's in color. Looks good. And you can see that the battery is not fully charged. It's at 13.1 volts. And next, we're going to go ahead and look here in the manual, and you can see that there's a QR code here at the bottom for Android phones. And then you can see right there the Google Play Store popped up. And you just it says LICITTI. Just go ahead and hit open, and then ask you for access to the device, and select your device. And there you go. Now you've got to go through here and change some of your settings here on the display. You can go in there and change all your max voltage, min voltage, full voltage, capacity, alarm, and LCD on. All right, so I went ahead and pulled the display up here, and you can see right here that it shows the 97 amp hour. And well, I need to set it to 100, but right in here it shows watts, and it's only showing 1 watt, and that's probably just the screen lit up there, so it's not using much power because the inverter is not on. Now watch when I turn the inverter on, you'll watch the watts go up a little bit because it takes power to run the internal power inverter. So it jumped up to 3, 6. Here on the meter, it's reading 6 watts. So that's not bad if that's correct. And it says the volts at 13.1. And let's go ahead and we're going to test the AC voltage. I've got it plugged into just a little jump box here. It says it's at 120.9 volts at 60 hertz. So that's good. Now here on top, on the little specifications tag that I showed you guys earlier, it said that it was 110 volts. So I'm actually glad that it's 120. That's a little bit better. So next we're going to be testing the sine wave. I've got it hooked up here. Go ahead and probe it. And you can see right there, nice clean sine wave. So that part is good. All right, so for the final test, I'm going to go ahead and put a load on it. Now, keep in mind, I've only got a 100 amp hour battery in here, and it only has a 120 amp BMS. And so, you know, I don't want to really try to max this thing out with such a small battery. I would like to, you know, just go ahead and turn it on and show that it can power the heater up and all that. But, you know, I wanted to really test this thing out. And when LICITTI sends those the cells, and I'm going to go ahead and build the battery in here with the BMS and all that. And I'm going to increase that capacity up to 280 amp hours. And I'm going to really put this thing to a test and run it up there to the 2,000 watt mark and just really do a load test on it. You can see right here, it said 1355, I think was the highest that it surged up to. But we're going to run it just for a minute and see if I have any problems. But like I said, I really want to put that bigger battery pack in here that LICITTI is going to send, and you know, really do an output test on it then. You know, just see if it can run that 2,000 watts, and you know. Because truthfully, that's one con to this. You know, the battery is kind of small. Now they do make some batteries that fit in a smaller size case, Brad Cagle did a review on this LICITTI battery box, and he found a battery. I think the name of it was Talent Cell. I'll try to put a link in the description for it, but it's a 170 amp hour off the shelf battery that you could just slide in here and it'll fit, and it provides you 170 amp hours. So if you're just looking for an off the shelf battery to put in here that's a higher capacity than just 100 amp hours, then that would probably be your best way to go. I don't know of any other battery that would fit in here that gives you that much capacity. So that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna wait till LICITTI sends those cells out, and I can load this thing up and really run it to its highest potential. But as you can see, thing doesn't have any problems running the 1306 watts. It's doing really good. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty nice unit. I like that it's easy to work. Now there is a few little cons. It is heavy. I know a lot of these companies will show people out, with huge power inverters camping and out in the middle of a field with, flowers, and they've got a huge power station sitting over there, and it's not practical. And it's the same thing with this one. You see that the case weighed like 30 something pounds, and then you put a big battery in here, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. That's going to be a quite heavy unit to have to tote around. But if you're looking just to put this in your house and not move it around a whole lot, then it's a pretty nice unit. I don't think you'll find, for $1,000 with the LICITTI battery and the $500 for the case, for a total of like $1,000 total, I don't think you can go wrong with this unit. Like I said, if you're just getting into this is a very simple unit. There's not a whole lot of bells and whistles. It's very basic. Now, as far as the display screen, it's nice. It looks good to me. It's got pretty much all the basic stuff that you want to have, and I really like it. I think that the unit is really good. Now, I would like to see maybe another cover. Another AC outlet over here, and maybe remove the cover. Don't really make a whole lot of sense to me to have that cover on there. It's not like you're going to be using this really out in the weather. You don't want it to, get wet, obviously, but I don't see a lot of people taking this one outside. Now, I can see where the cover would be useful. Let's say you've got it in the back of a vehicle or something like that. You don't want nothing to get down in there, no dust or dirt and all that. So, but I would definitely like to see another AC plug beside this one. I think there's plenty enough room for it. But as far as the case, I think it's very well built. I think it's kind of overbuilt. Literally, it's very, very stout. Alright guys, so that's the end of this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And once those other batteries come in from LICITTI, I'll go ahead and get it installed in here, and I'll show you guys how to build that battery from the cells and add the BMS and all that to it, and we'll do it together. I've never done it before, so this will be a learning experience for myself, and whenever I get it all installed in here, then I'll go back and do a real torture test on it. I'll run the thing up to 2,000 watts, and we'll see just if it can handle that much power. I appreciate you guys watching, and if you're looking to use this battery box, personally, I wouldn't use it for just a 100 amp hour battery. I think that's just too small, me personally, unless you're just using it for something really small. I just don't see myself using it for a small battery. Now you put the 200 amp hour battery in here, and now you're talking. You've got enough capacity where you can run a few more things and some bigger items. And personally, I use a 2,000 watt power inverter in the other room in there to run a 12,000 BTU unit air conditioner. It seems to run fine and no problems. Ran it for the last 2 seasons, no problem. And as far as the time that it'll run it, I know I had it hooked up to a 200 amp hour battery and a 2,000 watt inverter, and that's all that I had in that one setup. And you know, it would run between 4 and 5 hours, depending on how hot it was and how much power the compressor was. You know, how much the compressor was kicking on and how much power it was using. But on like a normal sunny day here in Tennessee, I could get 4 to 5 hours out of the air conditioner because it's an inverter type, and it's one of I think the most efficient air window unit you can buy. It's one of those Medea U-shaped air conditioners, and so it doesn't use very much wattage at all. So you know, like I said, I was able to get like 4 or 5 hours out of one 200 amp hour battery and a 2,000 watt inverter. So you know, this would be a pretty good little unit to take camping with you. Now it is kind of heavy, so that is one drawback. But you know, if you've got that 200 amp hour, 280 amp hour battery in there, you know, that'd be pretty sweet. You know, it would definitely save your butt in a power outage. You could probably run a refrigerator on there and you know, your wash machine. You know, obviously not all at the same time, but you know, you could run quite a few things on here. Now, depending on what fridge you got, it might run it, it might not. It just really depends on how much it surges. But you just have to play around with it and use a watt meter and check and see what devices you're trying to run and see how much power they use, and that'll determine, you know, if this will be able to run it or not. So anyways, until next time, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. See ya.